What's up guys, Shawnthebro here, and today we're going to be going over adding a press any key screen to our Super Smash Brothers and Platform Fighter tutorial series. So in that series, we've been working on items a lot recently, and I figured it'd be good to take a small break to work on something a little bit nicer, a little bit easier, and that is the press any key screen. So essentially we have this screen, like a lot of games, that is before the main menu. It can have music or a nice image here with the title, whatever information you want to display. And when any input is pressed, once the window is focused, so I focus the window, I press an input, and now we go to the main menu, and everything then works the same as it always has. We can then continue on and play our game. So it's essentially just this first screen here before the main menu, and we're going to be setting that up today with all the logic of pressing any input to proceed through the menu, how to spawn it initially when the game starts as opposed to the main menu, and a few additional fixes. So, before we get started today, if you'd like to get caught up in the series, I'll leave this iCard in the top right corner right here. It's a link to the entire playlist. We're on episode 40 of the Super Smash Brothers and Platform Fighter tutorial series. So we still have plenty of work to do, but we're pretty far along, far enough along that you might want to catch up and check out everything we've done so far. I will also leave this iCard in the top right corner right here, and that is to the main menu episode of the Super Smash Brothers and Platform Fighter series. That'll be useful because we are going to direct to the main menu today, and also use a little bit of the logic that we set up in that episode today to spawn our press any key screen. But other than that, we're good to go. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start by creating this widget. We're going to create the press any key screen widget. So I'm going to go to where I made mine, and we can click Add, User Interface, Widget, Blueprint. When you do that, you'll get a little widget here. I called mine Press Any Key Screen, but you can call it whatever you want. Go ahead and open it up when you're ready. Now, this is all the design part of it, so this logic you can do however you want. You can make it look whatever way you want. I've added an image that's a background image, and I've just made it the color black right now because I didn't have an image to display, with text that says press any key, and it's flashing just like this to kind of grab the user's attention. So I'll show you how I set this up, but like I said, feel free to set this up however you'd like. What I did, since I'm using Unreal Engine 5 now, widgets are slightly different, so you may have to adjust to that. When you make a widget, there's not always a canvas panel now. By default in Unreal Engine 4, it put a canvas panel in for you. I still like canvas panels a lot, so I went ahead and added one. You can just search the palette here if there's anything you can't find ever, and then just drag it into the top of the widget. That'll add a canvas panel to your widget. Now, I didn't do anything with this guy, but I have him here now so that he can hold all of the other widgets that I want below, like the background image and this press any key text. So I've brought an image onto the canvas panel. I've anchored it to the full size here. This will take up the entire parent object, so I want it to take up the entire canvas panel, and you can see it does. When you do this, make sure all your offsets are 0, that way it lines up perfectly. Then you can feel free to put in an image or whatever it is that you want this background to be. Again, this will almost definitely be an image at the end. For now, I'm going to leave it this black image, but I'll update it in the near future. That way it looks a little bit nicer than just a plain color. So if you don't have an image like myself, you can still change the color because by default it is white. There's something called tint here, and this applies a color to the image. However, if you don't have an image plugged in, it applies a flat color. So in this case, instead of being white, which is everything is 1, so if I made everything 1, or really the default, it would look like this. But it's a little bright for me. So I went ahead and made the R, G, and B, red, blue, and green values 0. The A, alpha, is still 1.0. That way it's not transparent. If I made this 0, it would be invisible. So it's as simple as that to get this black image that I got. And then I added a text widget on the canvas panel as well. Called it press any key text. And speaking of that, I called this background image. But back to the text. So I set it here. I anchored it actually to the bottom here. And then what I did was I took the text, I positioned it where I wanted on the screen with that anchor. So I zeroed my positions. And then I went ahead and changed the alignment, because normally this is 0 and 0, like this. And what it'll do is it'll put the top left of the widget at that anchor. So the bottom middle anchor is right here. Okay, when you put text at 0, 0 at that position, what it does is it puts the top left corner of the widget at that position, which puts the press any key screen off the widget. Well, we don't want that. So you can do 0.5 and 0.5 if you'd like. And what that will do is center the text around the anchor. Now for me, that wasn't actually enough, because if I do that, then it's still not in the right spot. Alternatively, you could go and do something like put 1 as the alignment, so that the bottom of the text widget was at the center of the anchor. But even that wasn't really enough for me, so I just centered it 0.5 and 0.5 and gave it a little bit of an offset. I like -80 as a value, but you can choose whatever you want. Okay. And then as for how I got this text to actually display like this, I changed the actual text field to press any key. Color I left alone, but under font, you have outline settings, which you'll probably have to open up. And I like giving things an outline of 2 here. You can change this as much as you want. You can give it 0, but I like an outline of 2 to give it a nice little color difference between the background and the text. In this case, they're both black, so you can't really notice the difference. But as you put an image on here, it's going to look better than just plain white text, in my opinion. Now, once we're done making this widget, then we may want to add this animation like I've done here. I'll also show you how I did that. So to make an animation within a widget, there's a very, very convenient little animations section here that Unreal actually has. When you're in Unreal 5, I've already docked mine here so you can see it, but it's actually just down here on this animations tab. So you go ahead and click animations and it will open this up like this. See how I have it kind of just above everything, like it's not really on my actual screen, it's just like a separate window. I go ahead and I click dock and layout just to make it a little bit cleaner for me. That is by no means required, but I think it makes things more convenient. Okay. Then when you have this animations tab open, you can click on a widget and then you can apply things to it. So I clicked on my text widget, click add animation. Okay, we can even set up another one here if you want, but I'll go over the basic process here. Once you add an animation, it's going to ask you to name it. So I call the one press any key effect. We can call this press any key size effect. Okay, we'll make a second one. And what we want to do is if we go to our effect here, you can press plus track, and then you want to grab the widget that you're actually performing it on. Okay, so if we're doing it on a new one here, press any key size effect that I'm making, I'm going to plus track, and then I'm going to grab press any key text. That's my track. All right. And now what I can do is if I go back to the one I've made, I've added another track here by pressing plus track on the press any key text. And then you can choose what event you want to change. For that flashing that I did, this right here, the way I set that up is I made a track of color and opacity. Okay, so I have color and opacity. Now, the way this animation works is that you have a timeline here. These are in seconds. So this is 0 seconds of the animation, 1 second of the animation, 2 seconds of the animation. And you can choose where certain events happen, and the engine will actually interpolate this for you. So it will go ahead and make it like a nice smooth disappearance. Because what I'm actually doing is setting the alpha to be 0 at these points. All right. So long story short, if you open up color and opacity of RGBA, Everything's 1.0 by default. If you click these little circle with the plus signs, they add a new key at the current time. So this is like a keyframe for that animation. And so you can either click it for the entire color and opacity, and you'll get the 4 dots, or you can just click it for the alpha. I actually only need the alpha, so I can get rid of the other ones that I have here. So you can just click this one, the alpha. I go 1 second in, but you can change the rate wherever you want the interval to be. 1 second in, I add another keyframe here, and then I set the alpha to be 0. Now immediately if you've done that, you'll see that at 1 second the text should be gone completely. At 0 seconds it should be here. Because as you go across this timeline, you can see that the alpha is changing with it. And eventually it goes to 0. Now, I didn't like the full snap back to just full alpha when I was done. So I went 1 second further in the timeline, added another key here, and then set the alpha back to 1. And what we get is this nice animation. Okay, and just to drive this home, let's go ahead and adjust the transform of the text as an example. Okay, we have rotation, scale, shear, translation. What we can do is we can add a minor amount of scaling or something similar. Scale would be good. Let's do scale just for fun, okay? So we'll do scale, and let's do 0.5. We'll have it shrink as well. Okay. So again, I don't need all these elements. I really just need the scale. So I'm going to delete the other keys. And for this, what I want to do is I want to change the scale. All right, so maybe I want to change it to 0.75 and 0.75 at this point. And now when I go along here, you can see it shrinks. And then we're going to want it to grow again. So the only problem with this is that this is not the same interval as the disappearance. So it could look a little strange depending on how I set it up. So I'm actually going to move these over to 1.0 just because we won't be able to see it when it is invisible. So it's perfectly fine to use different times in your animations, but if I did this here, you wouldn't really be able to see it. So it's actually kind of pointless how I would set it up. So let's try this again. So let's use 0 and 1 second as our times. So I have 1 for each scale, X scale and Y scale at 0 seconds. And then at 1 second, I have 0.75 for X and Y scale. Then 1 second later, I'm going to add a scale again. And for these, I am going to make it the X scale and Y scale 1.0 again. Just like that. And now when we look at this, see it's kind of like throbbing. It's going up and down in scale. And we can save this. We can play. And you'll see that it's actually not doing anything for it now because we have to manually add the animation. So we're going to go and do that in the graph. So at this point, you've done everything you need to do within the actual widget design view. Now we can go into the graph. So going into the graph, we are going to want to use 2 events here. One is standard event construct, so when this widget is created, what do we want to do? And the second is one we're going to make for when we press any key. You may have a few events in here when you make your new widget. You can delete them or use the event construct or move them, whatever you want to do. But the important part is that we get event construct somewhere here where we can use it. You can just type it in and select it. We'll add it to your screen. Now, all we have to do is, there's 2 things we have to do in construct. We have to start listening for if any key is pressed, and we want to play our animations. And we'll add our other animation that we made in as well. Alright, so to listen to see if any input is actually firing, we can go to Edit, Project Settings, and we can go to Input. Now, in my case, I already have 4 inputs that we can use. Exit, Revival, Platform. They all use any key. Okay? Now, they were all called Exit, Revival, Platform because any key would exit the Revival platform. It would disable it. However, really that's not what we want in this case. We don't want it to be called Exit Revival Platform if we're going to be using any key for other things. So I don't want to make this confusing, but this was just for me. Okay, this is something that we have for our revival platforms in game, and they are most likely going to get actual inputs later, not just any key. So I don't want to necessarily change them, but there is one thing that I can change. I can just add another action mapping and call it any key, and that'll be perfect. We're going to set it as any key on the keyboard. Okay? And it's literally that simple. Now we're going to grab this value. You can copy it if you want, or just type it out. And we're going to put it in this action name. Okay, so what we do in event construct is we call listen for input action. Target is self, that's fine because it's this widget that's listening. The action name is the action that we're listening for. That's our any key. When any key is pressed, that's what we want. If it should consume input or not, I'm going to say no. We don't need to consume input here. And then it has a callback. Okay, so let me show you what this callback does. Callback will then call an event when this action name has been found to be pressed. So we can drag off a callback, add custom event, click this guy here. It'll ask you to name this. I called it go to main menu, and we will do our main menu logic. We'll cover this in a second. Let's finish up our event construct. So now we're listening for the input. All we have to do is play our fancy animations. Your animations will appear under your variables under an animations tab here. This is automatically done. You don't have to do anything to get them to look like this. And so you can drag off of it. Like my first one is press any key effect and get it. Then I can call play animation. Okay. Play animation. Pass the any key effect into the in animation. Start at time. I like to start it at 0. Number of loops to play. If you set this to a certain value like 5, it'll play 5 times. But if you set it to 0, it will loop infinitely. I'm playing it forward. Playback speed I can change. And restore state you don't need right now. Okay, so this is what I have set up currently. I have 1.5 as the speed, and that's how you can see, that's what gets you this effect here. You should be able to see it playing. Now, let's go ahead and grab our other animation. If you didn't make 2, that's fine. I'm just going to do it for effect. I'm going to drag this play animation over here. We're going to play 2 animations. And we are going to, let's play it at standard 1.0. There we go. And so it looks a little silly having both of those in my honest opinion. However, you can see how you can play animations over top of each other and how you can play animations on widgets. So perfect, we have that working. Now we need to make sure that we can actually go to the main menu when any key is pressed. So we have our listen for input action. We have our callback that goes to an event. Now in this event, go to main menu, what I've done is this. I've created the main menu widget. So I create widget and I select the main menu widget that we have. Made this in a previous episode. Now we're going to add this to the viewport, and that will make it visible on the screen. Lastly, we want to get rid of the press any key screen. So we can go and remove from parent on self, right here, target self, and this will remove the press any key screen. So it'll remove the press any key screen, and the main menu screen will be the only screen that's there. And then the standard logic in the main menu screen with no further changes will allow us to control it and use it to our liking. So with that, we're actually pretty good. We need to make sure that we're spawning the press any key screen now as opposed to spawning the main menu screen. So you can go to your level blueprint. Again, last time we did this was in Unreal Engine 4. So if you want to do it in Unreal Engine 5, it's a little bit different. But regardless of what you're going in, if you're in Unreal 4, you can use the previous method we used to access the level blueprint. Otherwise, if you're in Unreal 5, you can go to right here. It's a little diagram. Select it, and then open level blueprint. And we're going to do that on our main menu level. And in begin play, we were creating the main menu widget and adding it to the viewport. We want to just switch that now to our press any key screen. Once you do that, then you should get this screen popping up by default. Once you focus the window, click into the window, and then press an input on your keyboard, you should see that the main menu pops up. Without any other actions needed, you should be able to see I can use both my mouse or our input that we made to switch between the buttons. So the window's focused, and you can play the game as intended from there on. Anyway, guys, that's all I got, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this allows you to make your press any key screen and teach you kind of about some widget animations and some fun stuff that you might be wanting to use. If it did help you and you enjoyed, please subscribe. It does more for myself in the series than anything else you can do. I just really appreciate it. I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube membership and Patreon supporters and subscribers. Thank you all so much for the love and support. I really, really am grateful. I appreciate it. It makes me so happy to keep working on these series when you guys are excited about it. Thank you so much for everything. If you had any issues with this tutorial or any of my tutorials, feel free to join the Discord community. It's completely free, and I'd be happy to assist you with any of the problems that you might have. And anyway, guys, like I said, that's all I got, so thank you so much for watching. I am Shawnthebro, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye, guys.